Warning, if you're faint of heart or easily offended, this show is not for you.
I don't give a damn about what you saying, bitch, you in the way. Closed case, my nigga beat the charges like yesterday. In your face, I'ma go hard and make sure you see the cake. Keep the pace, ain't no one fucking with me, this not a race. Doing the shit that I want, I'm never gonna stop, I'm never gonna give in. Making my way to the top, I told you to ride, I told you to get in. Now you can't eat out my pot, it's filled to the top, and I'm about to dig in. You say I was doing you wrong.
Welcome to the Go Rogue podcast. After what seems like a month off, only been 2 weeks. It was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. Hope everybody's doing well. Had a good New Year, a good Christmas. Was behaving yourself. Is that what I hear?
What?
I think I hear someone drinking water.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
Mama's thirsty.
I'm like, tell you what, if you're talking to 3 dog people and you don't hear dogs, there's a problem.
There's a problem, yeah.
You
And when I say mama, I don't mean Samantha. I mean the whelping mom.
I got you. What's up, Joe Bills? What's going on, brother? Let some people get rolled here. It's been a minute. We probably lost the algorithm. You know, probably people aren't being notified because of our vacation. What's up, Hector? So we'll let people get a little rolled in here, get a couple people. We got 10 in here so far.
I don't even see the comments section anymore.
You don't see it top right. It's clear at the top. It says comments.
Oh, that's new.
Yeah, it changed.
What's up, bro, man?
They changed a bunch of shit. Hostile bullies. What's up?
Hey, Graham, what's going on?
Richard. Furman. They're always here. That's right. What's up? What's up? Bully Mind State. Pablo's here. All right. Well, let's get the ball rolling this evening. Our guest is Logan Jones. How you doing this evening, sir?
Doing pretty good. Staying warm, best I can.
I hear you. So where are you at, right? Where do you live at? Where you at?
North Carolina. Technically, it's the Winston, Lexington area. It's about an hour north of Charlotte and about probably an hour and a half west of Raleigh.
And y'all got some snow down there?
Not yet. Well, we had flakes probably Monday, I think. Monday night or like late Sunday, and then we're supposed to get, I think, 3 inches maybe Saturday.
No, that's unusual for y'all though, right? Down that far.
We haven't had a good snow since probably 5 or 6 years ago. I think is one of the last like good snows we've had.
Right.
We were coming back from a show, I think from Alabama in like either late December or early January. We came off the highway in the van and we hit like 16 inches of snow off the highway.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
I mean, we had
fun.
When I was younger, we had some real shitty snows, but this is probably the craziest we've had in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
This is like, I don't know. I got a foot easy on the ground here.
You're up here in West Virginia.
Yeah, that's right.
We got our normal dose.
Yeah, On's in Ohio. It's expected that he gets it.
Yeah, at least.
Yeah,
It's
still an unpleasant surprise.
Now that's why I'm thinking South Carolina.
Mm-hmm. It's supposed to. What I've seen is going like over Tennessee and dipping down into the bottom down there.
Okay. I always hear like about South Carolina is like the snow line. Nothing down below that gets much snow or any snow.
Yeah. We're supposed to be safe down there.
I'm stuck. here in West Virginia, so it don't matter. Joe Mills
to be safe.
Don't stop down here. I thought it was supposed to quit for you. No, we're going. You about to get hit again. About to get hit again. All right, so let's get into it, Logan. What had got you into the American Bully show in the American Bully? But you breed too, right?
Yeah, we've produced our first champion and our first grand was actually a female. We bred her out this past year.
Oh, nice! Congratulations.
Yeah. We started showing technically in 2016. We were wrestling dogs originally. I was always with dogs. It was either when I was with my grandfather hunting in the woods, we had rabbit dogs. They were beagles typically. I grew up with him, training them and watching him run rabbits. And then after he passed, we ended up rescuing a dog named Luna. And that was my first dog that I ever trained or showed. She was probably 19 inches tall, old school razor's edge, and she was probably, in politer words, my second show ever. Ty Nugent, he was a judge back in 2016. He came back this year. It's been a while since I've seen
Yeah.
him. He told me she was a pit bull with a peanut head, and it destroyed me. It was my second show. I had no clue about nothing. Was just like, I'm having so much fun, and then I was just got like, he just like stabbed me in the heart, and I was like, oh, I started crying. I was like, I was so invested,
Right.
was like emotionally attached, and I was like, well, that hurt, but I can do it. And I ended up champing. It took me 8 months, but I champed the dog out. She was structurally there. She just lacked a lot of the breed type necessarily.
Right.
But let's see, we rescued her back in 2016, probably May, I believe. And Cindy, my stepmother, she actually knew the people who bred her originally. Technically the breeders were from her area, like where she used to live. They're called Brown's Kennels. They haven't shown in a while, but we ended up meeting them. And Kelly Brown, she had pretty much given me a little crash course, taught me a lot of everything that I needed to know. Reached around and looked around, and I'm one of the first ever videos that I started learning from was Stacking 101 with Papa Pitt. I think it was a video from like 2015 over in California.
Mm.
And so I practiced for about 2 months. To my first show, it was the Winston show that Cooper always has. Pulled, I think, 7 firsts and a second, 3 firsts and a second in juniors, and 4 first places in a female XO class. And Rob Korn had ended up inviting me and mom and dad to the show down in Georgia. It was called the World Cup at the time. And that was probably 2 or 3 months away. And so we started looking at shows and started saying, hey, this is something we can get into if I enjoyed it enough. And I was taking to it pretty good. I enjoyed it a lot, had a good bit of competition, and I didn't really have a whole lot really niche on my plate. So I started kind of just diving into it and just started learning everything that I could. And it just kind of kept going from there. We hit probably 10 shows that year. And I think I placed 5th overall in juniors for the top 10. That year, the first year I met Destiny, I had my ass handed to me. I don't know how many times against her. Lord, that was such a rude awakening, but it was needed for the development. So
Right. Yeah. And what are we
I ended
talking?
up champing out my first dog, and I started learning a lot from a lot of the other judges and handlers. So it was definitely a good year.
So what are we talking age wise from like the first?
I was
junior?
I was 13.
13. That makes sense. I saw a photo. I was looking for a photo for the banner, and I saw some older photos. I'm like, man, he looks like he's 12 years old or something.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I think that was from Allentown, the one they used in the banner. It was Silver Surfer back whenever I was showing him.
yeah, that was way back.
Mhm.
So you were in junior. When do you get the boot out of junior? How long do you get to stay in that?
I stayed there until I was 18. I just finished out my years showing because I showed against Destiny till she aged out when she was 18, and then that year after I think was the COVID year, which was 2020, and I was I think 17 at the time, getting ready to turn 18 that following year. But I turned it after February, and I think it was something that I'd read or I was looking at. So I was able to finish out when I was 18. That was my final year. I got top junior and then won best junior nationals, and that was like my last rip. It was the year that I'm Roberto Giannalu, and I forget who the other judge was. It's been a minute since I've been to a nationals. I think it was the last nationals that I went to.
You gotcha. So what was it like? Coming up in ABKC juniors, like, was there a lot of competition, or like what was it like? You got other kids.
2016 through 2018 was packed heavily with a lot of kids. I was in the middle of a lot of that, losing hand over fist to Destiny or her cousin, or family of her bullies. Had a couple of boys that were showing a lot back then. And I mean, it was a lot of fun, and you had to be on your A game if you were wanting a shot at winning at all.
All right. That makes sense.
So I got an interesting question. Would you say there was more? So you started as a junior, and obviously you've aged out. and you're an adult handler. Would you say there was more camaraderie in the junior class than there is in the adult?
I think I've got a
Or is the
the junior
competitive
class
spirit just as the same in both?
is not the same for sure. I piss off a lot more people in the adult class than I ever did in juniors. I personally don't care either way. If you like me, if you don't, that's cool. I'm still gonna do what I
Yeah.
need to do or what I'm doing. I mean, in juniors, you definitely had like a certain few. It's like I hate going against this person because it's always gonna be tough, or it's okay. This is just gonna get it done. I'm gonna get better at the end of it. If I win, lose, or draw, it's gonna end up the way it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. Well, and the other thing is it's not as I don't know about juniors. Doesn't seem like it's as much about the dogs. Where
No,
It's
technically,
not.
juniors is supposed to be nothing about the dogs. It's supposed to be about your knowledge of the dog you're handling or the breed or any of the breeds, depending on what they question you on. It can be that. It can be personal knowledge of just dogs in general. Like in my later years, whenever me and Destiny were going head to head a lot, they started asking us about breeding questions because me and Destiny were starting to get into breeding, and so they started hitting us with like, what's the temperature of a female, this, that, and the other of when she's starting to like come into heat, progesterone levels, starting to look at like getting like at least ideas on like having a good bit of knowledge for breeding and starting breeding and whelping and going through that process. I mean, it probably her last year they started hitting us on a lot of like the nationals questions. Like it was like, when was the first nationals? When was this winter? Like it was, they got a very broad spectrum of questions. Just because whenever the last year me and Destiny were going head to head, there was so many questions. Good night. It was they started going around and trying like because whenever they asked us the same questions, if we were on beat handling at the same time and we weren't missing a step, it had to be something out of the books, out of like the regular norm that they would cover. That would be the only way. It's like, okay, if they're studying everything under this scope, let's go outside of it a bit and see if somebody has some type of knowledge or leverage against the other. I mean, sometimes that's what it would come down to.
right.
Simple question. Yeah.
That's wild though. Yeah, because we, us as showgoers, we see the adult show and we see the dogs in the ring. So from the 40-foot perspective, we're like, oh, they're just judging the kids on them showing the dogs. We don't really understand the scope of what's going on there.
Right. That's interesting how it the questions get more difficult the more competitive the handlers are in the ring. Right.
And I think that's what it should be. If we're training kids to be up and coming handlers, and we have older kids like in the 13 or 18 division that are like going to be sticking with developing the breed and helping us breed and being in the breed, they should at least know the basics of their own breed or pursue other breeds. If they plan on becoming a judge, it's a basic thing that a lot of people should know. But granted, some people don't care enough about the other breeds to want to know them, and it's a valid choice on their part if they're not going to deal with them.
But I feel like as a handler, period, you should be able to take almost any breed under your wing, right?
Absolutely.
You got to know the anatomy of these dogs that you're handling. What speed of gait is appropriate for that dog? How it looks best in whatever speed you're supposed to be in the ring.
Right.
Yeah, I think for a lack of better term, all dog has like every dog you show has like you have to tune yourself to that dog. Like, okay, this dog gates well, or this dog doesn't gate as well. I need to slow him down a little bit or speed him up. If this dog has an excellent gait, you can almost run it around the ring, to really show it off.
Right.
And
No two dogs are going to show the same.
Yeah. And that's something you learn, and that's great about the junior program because there's where you're going to learn that. As adults, not necessarily talking to kids, but as parents that are considering letting their kids do juniors, like what's your advice to them? Like, how frequently should they do it? Like, is it something they should take serious and like put them in the ring every weekend or?
I think that's up to the kids. If the kids are going to be invested in wanting to do it, then absolutely. If they can help their kids to get to the shows to actually support them enough to do it, then take them whenever they want to. I mean, a lot of the times, whenever I started showing, it was something that I just ended up wanting to go do on the weekends. It was almost like I used to play football and basketball and baseball year round. That was my thing. Hurt my knee playing football, so I stopped doing that, and I was just playing baseball in the spring. And so I played baseball up until I think it was my sophomore year of high school, and that's when I stopped catching. And I just went full into dogs. But even then, when I was in high school, we still showed year round. I went to shows on the weekends when I didn't have ball games.
Dedication. And it ain't just we went to shows. You guys went all across the country.
I've been as far west as California, as far north as Canada, and as far south as Mexico.
Yeah.
Well, and that's another huge advantage I think worth pointing out is like as a kid getting into it seriously is and being able to see all over the country, even though sometimes it's not far, that much out of your hotel, but being able to say, I've been here, and here showing dogs.
A lot of the travel in itself, I probably took for granted because I was younger and I was just going to the dog shows and I was enjoying it. But I mean, thinking back to it, the memory just being in the van with Dad and putting I don't know how many thousands of miles on the road, it's definitely something that I couldn't be more grateful for. As the amount of work that him and Mama both put in to get me to that point, and the way they supported me hand over fist and did nothing short of anything that they could to get us to shows and to be able to help the clients nowadays. Whenever we do have clients at the house, either showing or training or whelping, they put in 110% without it.
Yeah, and that was one thing I noticed with you. Dad was always right there. You know what I mean? Not only that, he was doing stuff for the clients too. So if you're in the ring, he's outside the ring with the phone. He's on live. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
No doubt about it. If you're in the ring, he's outside the ring. You're going to see him. He's got a regular camera in one hand and his cell phone in the other. He's trying to take pictures and live stream at the same time. I'm like, I don't know.
Documenting everything.
You got him holding the camera, and then usually if something's on, like if one of the dogs is moving a misstep or if they're limping, Mom was calling him like, hey, look at the dog, check their feet, this, that, and the other.
Right.
She's making sure the house is taken care of. Like, okay, I got all these dogs here, And it's definitely a cohesive unit. Whenever we're working together showing dogs, it has to be.
Has to be. Yeah. Because the moment you're in chaos, the dog that's on the other end of your lead feels that. The moment you're rushing dogs in and out, in the booth, out the booth, in the ring, like they feel that anxiety, they feel that stress.
Mm-hmm. I probably got more anxious when I was in juniors than I was in the adult ring. Like whenever I was like in the later years of showing, I showed Karma. It's technically Luna's I think aunt or cousin in a sense. It's Razor's Edge blood. It was just bred differently, but it was the same I guess brothers or sisters or this, that, and the other. And so Mama and Dad would always tell me, whenever you're nervous, we can see it because we see Karma looking at you and not acting necessarily the exact same way she would if I walked into a show and I was just completely flat. And Mama made a reference to it. It was called the electric saddle. My sister, Casey, she showed horses. The electric saddle is basically the horse can feel everything through that saddle from you. They know how it is off the gate. That lead is electric. They feel everything through you. Even when I was younger and I started showing out, Steve Lopresti, he used to give me little breath mints. And he said because they can smell the nerves on your breath. They literally pick up on any of the slightest hormone smell senses. It's beyond ridiculous how many sensors they have and how much they can pick up.
Right. I mean, you have dogs trained to sense low blood pressure in people, right? So, I mean, just grasp that for a fucking second. These dogs know what the hell's going on around them.
Right.
It's just crazy. So you start to transition to the adult ring, and I imagine that was probably a bit of a lesson to be learned. I think things were probably a little bit different when you got to you're against handlers of adult handlers, but now you have to deal with dog owners because now it's about the dog and less about you.
It's dealing with people face to face. If I'm like running around, if they ask me, like, okay, what is your opinion of my dog? A lot of people don't necessarily like my opinion on what I tell them, but it doesn't mean that I won't show their dog if I see it has a potential if it's shown right.
Yeah.
Every dog's got their flaws, and a lot of people don't like hearing all of them necessarily. Mind you, a lot of the judges won't necessarily flaw judge. They'll judge the dog based on, hey, it has this characteristic, this characteristic. That's what it brings to the table on the breed. And I mean, that's a lot of the times whenever I do tell them, okay, it's got this flaw, this flaw, this flaw. Like it's got a high rear, it's got some easty westy. The elbows are tight in, this, that, or the other. It doesn't gait properly. It shuffles or it sidewinds, this, that, and the other. It's a lot of negativity. I'm just pointing out these are the things that I can try to correct as a handler. Gating, you can't hardly ever correct anything on that other than maybe a gait tail if you train it out. Like,
right.
One of the better examples would be Bowser and Devin. Devin has trained that dog stupidly long and got that dog to where he gated like you could tell him, and you could see that tail just.
Yeah.
I mean, stacking a dog, you can definitely learn to hide a lot.
He's one of the most decorated American Bullies of all time.
Yeah.
For a reason, right?
Yeah.
It's not just because he's a beautiful specimen. It's because he was trained extremely well.
Beautiful dogs do good, but in the right hands, that beautiful dog can turn into something outstanding.
It can turn into a national winning dog.
Exactly.
This is true. So yeah, so how long have you been? You've been out of juniors now, just adult only.
3 years technically. I'm 21.
Dang.
Yeah, I'll turn 22 this April, so it'll be the 4th year technically that I'm out.
That's wild. I think there's probably a lot of people that are watching now, or see you at a show and remember like this little kid.
Oh yeah,
in the show ring, completely different. It's crazy.
Very.
And then I
think
think
the first time I met Hans was in Kentucky, and I was wearing a suit and a fedora, and we were competing in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Yeah, I think it was the first time actually you came down from Oregon from that show. I think, or it was whenever you first.
We just moved. We moved from Oregon, Ohio that year, and that was our first ABKC show after we moved to Ohio. Yeah, that looking back, it's funny you mentioned that because me and Samantha were just talking about that earlier. Looking back at who was at that show, you and your dad, Nikki Lynn, Lance Lee, Joshua Smith, Hannah, Jim, Sam,
Kelsey was there.
Brian and Holly Shaw.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was just, and Jessica Lloyd was there with a very, very young Kelsey.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's crazy how the evolution of all of these people, like they're not in the same place they were back then,
Right.
A lot of people, look at Logan as, a superstar. They look at Kelsey as a superstar. Hannah, Jim, Sam, like these iconic people in our community. And back then they were the same as they are now, just normal people.
What are they saying there? Got RJ Lloyd in the comments talking to you. I don't know if you can see those, but yeah. So now it's strange because you're kind of long out of juniors, but I guess in my mind it's only been a year or so. Yeah. It's crazy.
Well, because we've known you more as a junior handler than as an adult handler.
Yeah. It's been what 5, almost 6 years in it, and now it's like 3 going on 4 years now.
So my question is, when you were in the ring with a suit and a fedora on, did Hans have on shorts and flip flops?
He did. It was shorts, flip flops, and a t-shirt with a hat backwards.
You guys are fucking hilarious. It was October in Kentucky, bro.
It was kind of cold too. I was impressed, and I was like, "He's from Oregon. This is probably a normal day."
Oh,
It's
man.
warm day.
I'm from Cali. I'm from California. I moved up to Oregon. Met Samantha. We moved across the country because it'll provide a better life for our dogs. But yeah, bro, I was cold. I'm a Southern California boy. I was wearing pants and a flannel.
Jeez. What did they say?
Yeah.
Kelsey was 10. Logan gave our daughter a lot of insight when she started. Myself as well. Nice.
The first time I met them was in Ohio at one of Rebecca and Andre's shows as a BRC show.
Right.
That's been, Lord, I don't know how many years ago that's been.
Now, have you always done like multiple registries, or did you just stay?
I showed with Kev whenever he was doing an ABKC show still. He used to have ABKC shows down the road in the mountains in North Carolina.
Okay.
That was probably like one of the last years that he had them down there. And it was like, I think it was 2016. That was one of the last ones that I had been to. That was an ABKC show that he threw. And then probably, I don't think it was like a year or like it was like a few years after that, whenever they started BRC. And then we started bouncing around both.
Nice.
I mean, like, after they got like their stuff established and got all the shows going, it started going from titling dogs in one registry to now clients. We offer 2 registries, and we try to dual champ out almost any dog that we get at the house.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You know,
That was the title.
it's a beautiful thing to dual title, triple title. The more titles, the better. You know,
There you
it
go.
just it solidifies that your dog does have what it takes. You know,
Wouldn't be a podcast unless Jake came in and arf-arfed. Just can't. You know what I mean? It just is.
yeah.
One night Jake's gonna miss and be like, "Fuck it, we're done." Okay, do it. Yeah. So yeah, dual registry for me, and there are more registries that accept the American Bully, but for me, it's always just been those 2. That's it. Now, have you shown any of the others other than BRC and ABKC?
We've been ICBR. Back in the day, there used to be DBCR, and they did a lot of shows in North Carolina, South Carolina, and then I haven't been to any other ones. I thought about going in the UKC or AKC shows. Other than I did show in, it was ASCA, technically, Australian Shepherd Club of America, I think is what it's called.
Okay.
We were at the Great Summit, Missouri show that Christina used to throw all the time up there at Purina Farms. And across the hall, they were doing the Australian Shepherd show. And there was a junior class there. And so me and Carmen went over there. I think I got a reserve and 2 wins that weekend.
Nice.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting. It was very like stricter. It was like a strict format, kind of like AKC. I don't know if it's a branch club of the AKC or whether like what it was, but it was different.
Right.
Yeah, I was the only one in the ring that had a bully that, granted, was an old school edge dog. So look at the people against like I don't know like how many shepherds that were running around us.
I remember we went to a show. I can't remember. I think it was Allentown when we were doing an ABKC show. There was an AKC show there too. And,
The other hall.
yeah, we think we're sick with it, right? And then these AKC people start rolling in, and they got like Mercedes vans with like standalone air conditioners. The windows are all blacked out. And I'm like, what the hell? And then like you see him open the door like a poodle jumps out. I'm like, are you shitting me? You got $100,000 in this van. You're just hauling a poodle around in it? Like you could have hauled your poodle around in a Chrysler Pacifica. Jeez. I got 5 bullies crammed in this sumbitch.
Yeah.
Oh man, I like how Ken and Logan travel.
Yeah.
They make that shit efficient. You know, every dog is comfortable in a crate, but
36-inch
they
crate.
maximize-
You got a method to it.
they maximize
Yeah.
that van capacity. Like, you know,
That van can fit 9 dogs in 36-inch crates if you stack them right. Because there's enough room for 4 in the back. You can layer them down. You pull them enough back to where it doesn't hit the doors, and then you put 4 more on top, 2 facing back, 2 facing forward, and you can get them all out.
That's wild.
Now
Now
the Jenga game.
to me, the
that's
van's still new.
experience.
To me, the van's still new, but I imagine it's probably how many years old now?
We got it, I think, 2018 or 2019. It has 240,000 or 30,000 miles on it,
Yeah.
and we got it brand new off the lot with 0.
Yeah, that's
Damn.
cool.
Yeah,
We
see,
had to. We were trapped in Tennessee. I was actually still in high school, and Dad was driving the green F-150, which nobody hardly ever sees unless they're in Winston and they see it there. And we were driving back from that Kentucky show, and the oil line snapped on one of the turbos, and so it went flat. They took it to the dealership in Cooksville, Tennessee, tried to fix it there. They're like, "Oh yeah, we put some putty on the line, hopefully it won't leak." And my dad was sitting there. He used to work for Ford, and he used to work for Lexus after that for 20 some years. And so, well, he worked for Ford first for like 10 years, went to Lexus for 20 some years before he got hurt. And so he's sitting there looking at them. They're working on it. Da, da, da. He's like, "All right, does it sound good?" They're revving it. He hears a, like, "No." Like, "Did you put oil back in it?" "No." Engine's toast now. Go figure.
yeah,
And so the green stress stuck there. We're stuck at a hotel with dogs. And I'm like, "I've got school tomorrow. Tomorrow's not going to happen."
uh-huh.
And so Dad and Mama, and they were talking, I think they were talking to the clients and having people help out whatever they could. And we ended up getting the van that weekend, drove back. Dad drove overnight and got us back home at like 2 or 3 in the morning. And I went to school on that Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, those are the adventures, man.
Oh yeah,
Those are the adventures. You know.
that's some of the best ones. Is like not
It's
only
7 years now.
the being at the show, but lots of times there's good things happen in the parking lot outside afterwards. You know,
Oh
people
yeah.
standing around bullshit.
Always.
A show's never really over when the last Best in Show winner is picked.
This is true.
And the show is usually over when the last car leaves the parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
But it just moves to the hotel at that point.
that's
Pretty
true.
much.
What does he say? Lord at the numbers, hauled dogs in the van.
It's been, Lord, I don't know how many dogs have been through that van now. I counted the numbers back, like, I want to say half a year ago, or a bit more than that, probably like last year sometime. Between titled dogs that have came in, including our own, I think it was through 60 some champions, like 63 or 4, and then that was just champions. And then through dogs that got championed or granted, it was 40. And that was across, I think there was Cane Corsos, Frenchies, Englishes, Shorties, and then Bullies and Oldies.
Yeah. So your entire show career, over 100 titled dogs.
Yeah, if I'm counting them together, yes.
I mean,
That's been in 9 years going on this year, I think.
titling a dog doesn't get easier because it's a different breed, right? The same amount of work, the same amount of effort, the same amount of money. It doesn't matter what breed or variety it is. Titling a dog, it counts. So over 100 title dogs. That's impressive, Logan. That's very impressive.
Very impressive. So, of all the breeds that you've shown, do you have one that you prefer over the other ones?
I stuck with Bullies the longest. I could have like a preferred breed. Probably bullies certain types of dogs though. It's easier to show dogs that like to show and have the energy for it. And I mean, granted, I love a good dog, but sometimes dogs don't have the energy or the want to show. But typically, most of those end up being the tools that people like to use for dogs to show.
Right.
Right.
They're the bigger, stockier dogs that have the breed type and the mass that they need. Mind you, they might not always show the best. They have the characteristics that we need in the ring sometimes.
Right. Yeah, and that's always a point of contention when it comes to shows. You'll see these dogs that are massive breed type, and no, we could put that dog on a lead and hand it to you, and you're going to know. Look, I'm not going to be able to take this dog 12 laps around the ring. It just ain't going to happen.
Right.
You know.
Right.
But and then people will tend to be critical of that dog when in reality they're just not identifying the value of the dog, the purpose of that dog. You know, they just look at it like it can't do 12 laps around the ring and ain't no good. Well, most of the time, you know, there are dogs that do 20 laps around the ring, and those are dogs you shouldn't use.
Yeah.
They don't care.
I mean, unless that's your
need.
unless that's your breed, unless it's
Yeah, unless that was so funny because I was actually looking at the standard on the oldie, and there's much more function expected out of the oldie. Like they
Technically, you're supposed to be a guardian, like working dog.
Yeah, working dog. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine's like 6 months old now, so you know he's the biggest dog in my house. I'm like, what the hell is this dog gone? Like, God dang, he's getting big quick.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. Crazy.
Every time I see Gina and Chris post an old, I'm like, dude, no, I don't need one.
Yeah, they're monsters.
They're so nice.
And it's so weird.
Dogs.
Like, you know, when you first get them, you get like, they're kind of wide, you know, when you first get them. And then now they're 4 months old or 5 months old and they're getting like tall. And you're like, oh man. And now we're 6, 7 months old. Now we're starting to get wide again. You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh God, man, this dog is like, this dog will never be in the kennel. I'm like, this dog is going to be 150 pounds. What are you talking about?
He will break through the kennel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Let me see we got a question here.
Uh-oh.
And what males and females do you see are up and coming? Any bully dogs in particular? Throw out some names. So I guess they want to know what dogs do you like right now? What would you put on your lead?
Probably from this past year, Piggy, Mac, they were the top two contentions. Jack, I still remember seeing Jack for the first time in Canada. He was like 14 months old. That dog was ridiculous.
Was it the show we were at?
Yeah, the one on the
Yeah.
6 show.
Yeah.
That was the first time I'd ever seen him. He was ridiculous.
I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
He was at his heaviest, and I'm like, what the fuck?
Right. I was talking, I forget who I was talking to. I was talking to some of the judges that were sitting down after the show. They're like, yeah, that dog's 14 months. I'm like, 14 months? Holy shit. And he was already over 100 pounds. He was ginormous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I was
He was a
showed.
bull.
Was Dina there? I'm pretty sure that was the one she was.
Dina was there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because she was like, you know, she was trying to convince him. She was like, you need to show this dog. And they were like, well, we don't know. And Dina's like, no, you're putting this dog in the ring. She called me on the phone. She's like, hey, I'm going to send you a picture of this dog. Like, you need to see this dog.
She's
like,
good for that.
Yeah, she'll convince anybody. Like, she don't care.
That.
If
Yeah.
she thinks your dog needs to be in the ring, she'll be like, no, you need to get that dog in there right now. Go do that. That's crazy. So, yeah. So you said Mac and Piggy. And
the Casieros boys down in South America, they've got dogs just about everywhere across the world now. They've got a lot of prospects damn near anywhere you go. I think Little Baby and Little Baby is one of the ones that I've seen pretty consistently in Migos. those two were some really bully pockets that I'd started to see a lot on my feed and I've seen them a couple times when we traveled to the Midwest, but beyond that, I mean, they were pretty dogs. I think I've seen both of them in Jacksonville in Florida. They were
Yeah.
some pretty well put together pockets.
Yeah.
I keep seeing stuff on Ox King. I need to see him in person. I haven't seen him in person. I like to give judgments on dogs that I have seen in person.
Right. Well, and you're one that probably, because you kind of grew up in a ring with a judge constantly drilling you every weekend on stuff, you probably have more of a critical eye than a lot of people. You know what I mean? And I think it's balancing. This is the hard part. Once you gain the knowledge of how to really critically break down a dog, then it's like, how do I communicate that to the owner without offending them? You know what I mean? Because people get heated when they think their dog's great and you see some obvious issues.
Yeah. You take them from up here and then you drop them 2 pegs and they're just like, oh, that hurts.
Well, I feel like, when if you aren't real with your clients about their dog, they're gonna wonder why they might have lost in the ring, right? But if you're upfront, like, hey, this is a concern. I'm gonna do my best to accentuate better attributes on your dog. If this dog has a really good crest, I'm gonna make sure that head is nice and straight, that crest arches really well. I'm gonna try to take attention away from the fault, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
you can exaggerate their good features and kind of pinpoint them to where they can block off a bit of the bad.
But
Makes it look better.
no dog is perfect. So yes, the expectation to win is there, but the reality is you might lose. So knowing that your dog has faults, for someone new, someone like you that has experience handling dogs, breaking down a dog, I think that's valuable information. It kind of, because I've seen it time and time again where new people are excited, they give their dog to a handler, they don't place, and now they're pissed off.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, why didn't my dog win? Well, look at that dog. And if you confront them with the truth from the beginning, that kind of lessens the blow if their dog doesn't place,
It's very fun when they start pointing fingers and it's like, oh, well, what about this? And what about that? I'm like, you're saying stuff that's there, but I mean, the judge is telling me this. I'm telling you what is wrong with your dog. They just seem that dog had better attributes than your dog that day. Your dog could grow. The puppy class is the worst for it. Like anything between 6 months to a year, if your dog isn't finished growing or done growing, so much can change in a dog. It is ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, and in that cases, like when you pick up a dog for a client, you're going to show the dog. Do you do kind of an evaluation with the client, or you?
Yeah, usually if I'm meeting them in person, or if they send me pictures or videos, or they send them to mama and them, I'll look at him and tell him, hey, this is what I see. He's got this, and this going for him. Sometimes people would like an estimate. Sounds like, how long do you think it'll take you to champ out? Not a clue. I couldn't tell you if I wanted to guess it up and like some magic fairy dust to say this many days.
Yeah.
Doesn't work. There are going to be some days where your dog's showing great and he could take almost every class. There are going to be other days where you show and he's got different competition and different light, and some dogs are just going to outperform him or look better in a completely different way.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's a hard lesson for a lot of owners to learn, is that you can go to a show and just completely bomb and just do nothing, like not even get third, like just nothing all day, and get encouraged, and then go to the next show and just destroy, just absolutely kill the whole day.
And and it doesn't, and that's what a lot of people need to understand. It doesn't mean that your dog is bad. It just means there was a better dog in the ring.
Yeah, that day.
Because you can go the next weekend to a different show, and the highly competitive dogs may not have been there. Just because your dog doesn't win against some of the top tier dogs doesn't mean it's not deserving of a title, right?
Yeah.
You just
It
chose
can
to
take
go
time
to the
enough.
wrong show,
yeah. Yeah.
you know?
I think that's something they're probably going to start cracking down on is if they're going to start having less shows, it's going to be a lot more tougher competition and it's going to be a lot more dogs going against each other at the same time. It's going to be a lot, hopefully, similar classes where they're going to start looking like a whole ring of American bullies, not some bullies that have put together dogs.
Right. Well, that
I think
here, I'm sure you're seeing it too, is just the caliber of dogs is
Mhm.
getting better and better. Like even a dog, not to say the winner, like winners are better because they are to some degree. But what I'm saying is like third place dogs are getting better than the third place dogs were years ago. You know what I mean? Like the caliber of every dog in the ring is getting better and better, which is good because eventually it'll get to the point where, you know, it's just a certain caliber dog that just won't bother to show up anymore. Because it used to be if the top dog was there, okay, we're all competing for second place. Like we know the top dog's going to take it. You know what I mean?
Pretty much.
Now it's not unusual to have 2 or 3 dogs in the ring. They're all going to be shooting for the win. So if you have a substantially flawed dog, you're probably not even going to slide one in, you know, because there's just so many good dogs now.
Mm-hmm. There hasn't really been like a consistent strong hand dog since like Zero. Because I mean, it was Zero and Blue. There was a gap here between both of them where it was kind of a spread of all the dogs. Whenever Hove won, I think Hove won top dog that year. And then the year before that, I think it was the 2 years before that, it was Bear.
Right. There's always another one.
Dominant, always.
Yep. Leonardo. Yeah, 7 is a grand champion. He doesn't show no anymore. Our breed is evolving fast. And I would say I don't know, maybe it's just my perspective, but I feel like in the last couple of years it's really ramped up more so than the first couple of years that I was involved. But obviously, you know, you've been in a lot longer. When did you start to see the dogs substantially start to change? I know the classic class shift was a little different because you ended up taking some dogs that you were showing as standards and putting them in the classic class, didn't you?
Mm-hmm. I mean, probably the last 2 to 3 years, a lot of the dogs that used to be considered standards, now they're in the classic class. And I mean, a lot of the times, even with the classic class, there can be dogs you can say, oh, he looks like a standard. They're not. I mean, they're like Grand Champion Castro, great example. Big dog, he lacks substance. A lot of the dogs that you see in the classic class should look like standards. They just don't have as much mass and bone. That is, if you read the standard, it should be everything exactly to achieve what the standard should be, just with a lack of bone and mass.
Yeah.
I mean, with that, you can be a lack of size. It should still have the same blocky bully head, nice, good wide chest, good frame. I mean, it literally, if you read the standard, it just says a lack of bone and mass. I mean, like it should be the exact same thing across the entire board, whether you're going pocket or XL. It should just be a shorter version of the standard or a bigger version of the standard.
I think I remember. I think it was you, and I can't remember what show it was. For some reason, I'm thinking it was Allentown. Maybe it wasn't. I don't remember what show, but I think it was you. You had I think it was a white dog. It had a massive head, just absolutely massive head. This dog, I mean, he probably had a head bigger than mine. Like his dog's head was huge. And it was in the classic class, and I was like, "What in the hell is that dog doing in the class?" But
you're talking about Kilo. He's a champion now. He is a very good example of what a classic could look like a very well put together classic.
right.
I mean, his structure might not all the way be there, but he's like the good fitting pieces of what he's done good in UKC as well. He's a really well put together dog that still carries consistent mass and size.
Yeah, it was just that's when I guess you know they had made that shift, kind of moving some dogs out of standard into classic. But I think it was one of the first dogs that I looked at, and I was like, "Holy crap! Okay, now it's obvious the classic class has stepped it up. Like these are some impressive dogs."
And over the years, you can see like a trend of where classic dogs are carrying blockier heads, bullier features, and they're carrying them just on a little bit of a lighter frame and not as much mass, and it's a better trend in that direction.
Right, for sure. Now, if you had to have that conversation with clients to just be like, there's a difference.
Yeah.
I can put him in the class you want me to put him in, or I can put him in a class where he will more likely win.
Yeah.
What do you want to do?
Dogs are going to fit categories. The only time where I don't bridge that gap is if it's a pocket that's too small. If it's a pocket that's too small, they're like, oh, he's close to 17. Because I've gone against people that have dogs in the classic class and they beat me. Granted, it is what it is. They're the tweeners. They're the dogs that don't really hit that 17-inch mark, but they're not bully enough to compete with the bigger pockets in the class. So they switch into the class. The classic. If they don't get wicketed, then they just slide through. And when it happens, yeah, it's a better dog in that existence. But I mean, in the same time, if you're looking at that class and you're saying, hey, should be a whole class with 17-inch dogs, and cool. Right. You did what you thought was right and slid your dog in the class and you won. Congrats.
Yeah. Well, it's and again, you as a handler have to know the nuances of maneuvering dogs into where they need to be to bring that success that your client wants. You know what I mean?
Right.
Unless they want to be stubborn, you're like, no, you're going to show this dog in the standard class.
It's like beating a dead horse. It's like, well, it's going to sit here and do the same thing over and over again.
Right.
Right.
And it's very much a strategy, you know.
Yeah.
It's a strategy. I mean, if you want to win, but you're not going to sit there and pick your best options to win, then you really don't want to win.
Right.
You know. And if it's allowed, then there's nothing wrong with it. You know?
Right.
Now, was that immediately apparent to you when you got into the adult classes, like that the nuances of positioning dogs? Because I mean, in juniors, it was just a dog. It really didn't matter what dog it was. You were more the focus than the dog. But as you start showing in the adult classes, then how long did it take before you picked up on the kind of nuances of moving dogs around, or go into a certain show, or not go into a certain show because it'll benefit, that dog?
Typically, if we weren't going to a show, it was either because it was out of reach and we didn't have the money to get out that far, or it was either weather, or we just didn't have the dogs to show. If we had the dogs to show, if we were going to take a hit on it, if we thought we had a chance to get points or majors on the dogs that we had at the house, we were going.
Right.
I mean, there's definitely plenty of weekends we had our ass handed to us hand over fist. We regroup, go back, and like maybe 2 or 3 weeks later, we finish champing out the dogs we had there. I mean, whenever I was in juniors, I was campaigning dogs for other people. It was just a different format because then they were helping us get to shows for me doing junior handover shows. I couldn't charge them because in ABKC, you're not supposed to charge as a junior. They were donating to help us get 2 shows that was covering gas or hotels or stuff that dad and mom didn't have the money for, and that's how we were able to get to shows. They were helping cover the backside of what we didn't have. And there's a lot of anything or everything we made went to dogs, whether it was dogs that were staying at the house to get campaigned or dad's money from when he got home from work. And it just all went into the same pot because whenever we were showing, okay, on the weekend, cool, we pick up, we take off. This is what we do. And it's what we did for years.
Are you still as active?
I mean, client-wise, no, not really. We've definitely taken a step back. We still look for clients here and there. People reached out. I've got 2 of them that we talked to this year. One of them might be coming out of the Midwest, and then another one, we're waiting on his response, seeing what he's getting together for us. Other than that, we've just been kind of sitting back and breeding and seeing what Mala's doing, because now we've got Mala at the house, and he's going to be one of our main studs that we're either going to utilize or breed out. And so we've just been kind of taking a step back, seeing what we can do. We produced our first grand. I've been talking to them about possibly looking to becoming a judge, and started moving around a couple pieces. Probably going to end up talking to Dave sooner or later if I need to. And then go from there about maybe becoming a judge and still breeding and showing on the weekends whenever we can.
I would say that you're qualified, bro.
I would think so.
A good bit of the judges that I've talked to said that I should have all the knowledge that I would need, and I'd have their vote. So when it gets to that point, sooner or later, because I'm assuming it's going to be sooner than later, we'll probably get there down the road.
So just been concentrating on kind of building your own yard right now and not as much in showing. But I think probably, I don't know. I don't really know for sure, but I think a lot of people probably in 24 had kind of stepped back, probably wasn't doing as many shows as they had been, 24 was a really weird year. I'm kind of glad it's over.
It's the opposite for us.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you guys actually stepped it up.
We were
Micro
everywhere.
Bullies coming out. Y'all were at every single show that y'all could go to.
We were everywhere. If there was a spotlight, I was trying to put a dog in it.
Yeah. And you guys had a very, very successful year. Very successful.
Yeah. Well,
congrats to Debbie and Sam. Every weekend that I see them, she's a dope little dog. She fits what the standard should be. She's a great representation of what it was.
I appreciate that, bro.
When I started,
it's a lot.
I never really got to see any of the gooch blood or anything like that. Or like any of the old school blood that was at least shorter or smaller. Like I think I might have had 2 dogs that would have fallen in that category today that I've like ever shown. But like it wasn't really something when I first started that we ever really seen was like the micro dogs. I mean, unless there was like a windshield off to the side, you're like most of it was exotics. If we seen the fun show off the side, it wasn't really miniature American Bullies. That wasn't really something we'd seen a whole lot.
Yeah.
I don't really know were there any other dogs that really fit that qualification of a micro American Bully. Like she's the first one that I saw that like definitely wasn't a more exotic-ish. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean,
American Bully.
Larry was breeding them very similar style dogs 10 years ago. He was probably, in my opinion, the true pioneers of the micro or mini American Bully. A lot of his dogs were short. They were substandard short. Some of them weren't, some were fit in the pocket category, but our main stud that we built the micro line from was that almost pocket height. He was that tweener. He was too short to be an actual pocket, but he wasn't exotic to be an exotic, But, Samantha saw potential in everything that dog possessed, and he was the foundation to our entire micro program.
Yeah. And it shows, for me, I've never seen those other dogs. I've only seen her. So I'm just like, I know when they started the micro class and then you put little Debbie in the micro class and then you bring all these other dogs into that class and you say, okay, if she's the definition of it, then these don't fit. You know what I mean? They don't, because they still tend to be super, super wide. You know what I mean? They lose legs, but they don't lose everything proportionally. So that was the thing that stands out about her. Like you look at her, she's proportionally an American Bully. Just I don't even know how tall she is. What, 10 inches or something?
Yeah, she's a little under 10. Yeah,
it's just wow.
I know. I forget how small she is, and then she goes next to another dog, and I mean she's shorter than our Frenchies. So
right, yeah. That's another animal. Logan, you ever show Frenchies?
Yeah, I've branded a few.
Have you?
Yeah, I've shown against some, what's his name? The black brindle you got, Hans?
Heston?
Yep, I've shown against him a few times. Whether it's been class dog or got a champion or a grand, it's gone against them.
Yeah.
They're a different kind of breed.
Psychos.
Yeah.
Them screens get you every time.
I'm just like, I probably take an oldie over a Frenchie all day. Just personality wise, you know what I mean? Even though the oldie personality is different because he's like I'm goofy, I'm good. And then
they stay like that for a while.
Yeah. But then if you piss him off, then that is a complete departure from what you know is normal.
Really?
Yeah, if you get him pissed off, it's like he is just a completely different animal, and you don't
It's all bulletproof.
Yeah, you don't expect a dog that size to be like, "Hey, I'm gonna whoop your ass now, right now." So this is what's going to happen. Just
That's what was growing up with Andre. I'm grand champion Andre. It's off of Ink and Bully stuff from Julio. He had ended up throwing him out to me a few. It's been a while now. I think he's 7 now, I believe. And he started off as this little wee thing, and then he just grew up to be damn near 100 pounds and like 18 inches, right to half of my leg. You don't think nothing of it. He'll just sit there and look at you. All of a sudden, he takes off, comes back, and slams into you like a linebacker, and you're on the ground. It's like, oh shit.
Yep, no breaks.
No,
Really great.
he's the goofiest damn dog I've ever had, but he's so sweet and loving. He's such a good dog.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, you're good.
Outside of your yard, and I can't really say your client's yard because you've had a lot of clients. Who are some of the people don't know this, but who are some of the dogs that you've handled?
Let's see. In the younger days, when I started getting good clientele, Grand Champion Shamrock, Grand Champion Rocco. I champed out the first ever 2 Shamrock kids. One of them was Grand Champion Glock. He was a hell of a dog. Whenever he started fully getting into his 2 to 3 years old, he was 120 pounds and resembled his daddy every bit more, just on a shorter back and a bit better structure. Grand Champion Big Mac, he was the first China Boy kid. I ended up dual branding him. Caitlin had ended up champing him out before they shipped him down to me, and then we started training and showing him. Grand Champion Prodigy, Waffle's son. That's off of my Tiny and Shots Fired and Blue, that whole litter.
That whole litter, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then of course, I've got Marlon now. He was actually the first Rocco blood that we've ever owned at the house. Yeah, he's definitely been a different storm for us. He's been growing into his own. I see his kids in South America that are full grown, and I'm just like, I'd be really happy to get something like that up here.
Yeah.
And then just start formulating that. Let's see. Bigger name dogs. Other than that, I showed a good bit of some of the Thompson's blood. Had a female that was running top 5 consistently against Superior Bully Shorty Bulls down there, named Gina. Diego Vasquez over in Maryland owned her, and then now her technically sons and grandsons that I'm showing now, they usually hit top 5, top 10 every year. And then let's see. Trying to think.
Well, either your mom or dad, they mentioned Madden.
Yeah, it's Madden. I love showing Madden, and that dog is. I love showing him on the weekends. It was always. He was a very show dog. He liked to show and be in. He was a very people pleaser dog.
Yeah, and it's tough. It's hard work for you when the dog doesn't want to show.
It makes it twice as hard. If they don't have any training and it's one of those dogs who just like put the brakes on, not going to move. Like, well, either I carry you out of the ring here, or we're going to make this the last bit of the loop, and then I'm just going to get you to stand still.
Right. RJ wanted to know if you ever bred that Chaos female from Ron.
So that was Ron had sent me. It was a Chaos male. His name is Champion California Dreamer. He was a classic. It was Chaos bred to Trifecta's Perfina. We ended up breeding him to a big boy daughter that we got from Andre and Rebecca Pogue out of Ohio. And that produced our first litter. I didn't really show anything off of there. That was more, we got a kind of a tool piece out of that. That's what produced our grand champion that we have today. Her name is Miss Mean Look. She is a blue tri. We don't have a whole lot of we have some pictures of her, but we haven't really taken her out a whole lot. She was just kind of a puzzle piece that we kept back. She had a really blocky head. And it was a very bully and girthy bitch that we just kept from that litter. That was actually Mama's pick. That's been her little girl that she's been keeping a hold of. And I think that litter is 5 now, I believe. And bred her a few years back to Champion Soko, which is the dog that I was competing. He was Shamrock bred down to a bitch named I think Champion Raven. That Corey Latham and Vicky down in Alabama. And that was
that's a bad female right there.
Yeah, so solid black bitch. She was a bully girl. But I believe it was Demon Boy and Lucky Blood that was on that. And that was bred back to Shamrock, and that's what produced Soko. And we bred Soko to her, and that produced Grand Champion Pinky. And now we're waiting on her to come around, I guess, in her cycle. We got some stuff cooking right now. Hopefully, if it takes her, we'll see how it goes. We're excited at least to see how it comes out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny, Han, when you muted Mom and Panton there. I was like, shit, I lost audio.
No.
Expected to hear it, and all of a sudden I wasn't hearing anything. I'm like, oh, shit.
I know. Even with the headphones on, I could tell she's getting a little loud.
Yeah. Nah, it's no big deal. It is what it is. If you ain't got a female, you got a female with puppies, she's paying. That's just.
Oh, yeah.
I remember
As long as you're saying one, that's what counts.
First couple litters, I was like, what in the hell is wrong with her? We're trying to give her all kind of supplements and shit and trying to get her to. I'm like, I don't know why she's so hot. I'm like, it's just what mamas do. That's what they do.
Yeah.
Crazy.
She gets too hot, she'll jump out.
All right, buddy. Well, we've hit the hour mark. So if people, I know you probably, it said at some point you probably start showing again. So give everybody where you're going to find you, how do they find you, how do they get a hold of you, what's your schedule?
Facebook or Instagram. If you either heard of me or seen of me, it'll be more than likely on Facebook, either from a friend of a friend, or at a show.
Right.
Don't be afraid to walk up to me and say, hi, I've seen this or seen that. There's YouTube videos of me. That's probably when I was like 13 or 14, but it's my earlier work. And anything, if you need to get a hold of me, Facebook or Messenger, that's the easiest way, probably.
Gotcha.
Logan Jones.
Logan Jones.
On Facebook.
What is it? What's it on Instagram?
Instagram, I tried to start making an account. I usually just use that for surfing on little stuff here and there.
Okay.
Facebook's the main branch on there.
All right. So they reach out to you on Facebook. All right. Well, I appreciate you coming on. It was great to bullshit with you a little bit. It's so funny. It's almost kind of like bringing back memories, probably for everybody, even in the comments, having you on and be like, man, there's this little kid that was just always like dressed to the nines in the ring, and then now we're
still got the fedoras. Fedoras won't come back in full effect.
Now we can have a beer, which is crazy.
Yeah.
That is true, huh? That's fucking true.
Yeah.
That's fucking crazy, bro. Man.
It's crazy. All right. Well, we're going to cut her off for the night. I appreciate you coming on. I'd let everybody know we are back. We've had a multi-week kind of break just because it was Christmas and it was New Year's, but we're not quitting. This is it. We're back. But we'll catch y'all next time.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you, Logan.
Thank y'all. It's been a blast.
All right, guys. Later.
Do you own an EZ Whelp Classic? Then it probably looks like this. If you're like me, you lost those top caps long ago. That's why I created the EZ Whelp Classic compatible top cap by 10 Mile Creations. Using advanced additive manufacturing technology, we increase the extrusion length to ensure that once your top cap is in place, it stays securely. Visit our Amazon store to pick yours up today, along with other accessories designed exclusively for the EZ Whelp Classic.